Okay, from the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your uh, weather briefing for this winter storm here, and we're trying something new here. We've got this briefing going out two methods. We've got it being disseminated across our GoToMeeting platform as well as Facebook Live. So for those who are new to this, we provide these briefings in advance of big weather events, winter storms, severe thunderstorm outbreaks, tropical events, and any other type of hazardous weather. So a good morning to all of our partners, public safety partners, who are watching via our traditional webinar platform, and good morning to all of our Facebook viewers as well. So from the National Weather Service in Raleigh, this weather briefing covers central North Carolina. So we know via Facebook there may be there may be a bear with me here for just a second while I fix the audience view here. Thanks for the heads up there. We know that this briefing may be watched outside by folks outside of central North Carolina, but keep in mind that the details I'm about to present are only relative to central North Carolina. All right, so let's get right into the webinar here. And basically, this is of 9 o'clock this morning. What's changed? Of course, we've upgraded our winter storm watches to warnings for the areas that you see there in pink. So we're talking basically from the Triangle region, Wake County, north and west, and then the southern and southwest Piedmont. So the areas you see in blue are upgrades to winter weather advisory. And let me emphasize that going from a winter storm watch to an advisory is an upgrade. So please don't consider that a downgrade. I always cringe when I hear folks say, "Oh, the watch has been downgraded to an advisory." No. It's an upgrade, because let me tell you, advisory amounts can cause havoc here in central North Carolina. Okay, the only difference between an advisory and warning is the amount. That has nothing to do with the impact. Okay, so the impact is still there. Even in the blue, which could be any amount of ice. A winter weather advisory is issued in the blue area for any amount of ice accumulation, okay, even if it's just a small amount, okay, and so keep that in mind. The other thing that's changed is we've increased our snow amounts, not snow, I'm sorry, ice amounts. We've increased our ice amounts across the western portions of central North Carolina, basically the western Piedmont. And you can see now that red area, I'm referring to the map on the right. The red area represents a 1/4 inch or more of ice accumulation. So the red has been expanded northward all the way up to Roxborough, and now includes the Triad. Remember yesterday we thought the Triad would get, we're talking Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, down toward Lexington. We thought it would be like maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow and then a crusting of ice on top of that. Well, now it looks like less snow and more freezing rain. So that's unfortunately some bad news. The amounts are pretty light along the I-95 corridor, but light is just a relative term for the amount. The impact is not light. A 1/10 of an inch, 15/100ths of an inch, 2/10ths of an inch of freezing rain can cause some problems on roads, even along the I-95 corridor and points east. So I want to just emphasize that. So what's going on with the storm right now? Here is a current water vapor and surface pressure, and I'll try to do some drawing on here real quick, not to keep this terribly long, but here's high pressure. Remember, which way does high pressure, air flows around high pressure clockwise, right? And then here's your low pressure, surface low, and air moves around low pressure counterclockwise. And look at these numbers here. Those numbers you see are dew points, okay? That's a measure of how much moisture, okay? So these dew point values are in the single digits and teens up over Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. They are going to be coming southward and replacing these dew points that you currently see in the mid and upper 20s. And when we have dew points that low in the single digits and teens, anytime the precip begins to fall into that dry air, that causes the atmosphere to cool. We call that evaporational cooling. And that is what's going to make for a very cold day tomorrow, cold enough where we're going to be dealing with the freezing rain and mixed precipitation types. So if you're wondering, well, gosh, it's above freezing, the sun's going to be out today, what gives? Well, it's all this dry air that's coming down from the north that is going to set the stage for much colder temperatures tomorrow once the precipitation gets underway. All right, so let's get into our slides here. And snow, ice, wind, power outages, hazardous travel, maybe even flash flooding across east of I-95, where the heavy rain will occur the longest, are all of the immediate hazards tomorrow. Early next week, there could be some minor rises in the rivers, some minor flooding on the main stem rivers. Don't think that's going to be a big deal, but I wanted to mention that. But one thing is really, really important here is that the risk for power outages is probably more on the way of widespread. We haven't used the word widespread up until this morning because now we think that area of quarter to a half inch ice is going to be much more widespread. So when you get more ice, you get more power outages because the trees will fall. Plus, not to mention the fact that we're going to have wind gusts approaching 30, maybe 35 miles per hour tomorrow. And when you consider the ice loading on trees, coupled with wind gusts over 30 miles per hour, the end result is a lot of downed trees and a lot of power outages. Okay, so that's going to be a big deal, a big problem tomorrow afternoon, and and late tomorrow night. All right. So, and also on this slide here, we try to give a sense for what is the biggest problems. Okay, so obviously if things are in the green and yellow, it's not so bad, right? But then when you get to the orange, it's like, okay, things are really starting to turn for the worse. And once you get to the red and purple, it's like, okay, this is a real big deal. So yesterday we were orange for power outages. Now we're red. We were orange for travel hazards yesterday. Now we're red. Okay, so we think there's going to be more power outages, more travel problems, and more freezing rain, particularly across once you get west of the Triangle region, once you get west of the Triangle, west of Fayetteville, west of the Sandhills. Okay, and how's this all going to evolve? Not much different than what we showed yesterday. In fact, these maps I think are the same ones we used yesterday. There hasn't been much change, but we're going to gradually see the snow and sleet filling in from southwest to northeast around sunrise tomorrow. And then by 9 a.m., you're looking at, a pocket or two of heavy snow north of Interstate 85. And for our folks who are new to these live briefings, who may be watching on Facebook, we always refer to this road right here, I-85, because I-85 oftentimes delineates the difference between where it's colder and where it's warmer. It delineates where the snow hangs on the longest versus where the rain moves in the earliest. It can delineate, where the worst of the worst conditions are versus where things aren't so bad. So typically the worst and heavier snow and colder temperatures are north of 85. That's where it hangs on the longest. And it usually warms up the fastest south of 85, and particularly east and along the I-95 corridor. Okay, so when I reference 85, think of that line. When I reference I-95, that's I-95 right there. So you could see as we move to midday, where there was snow and sleet earlier in the day is going to be changing over to freezing rain, and I think that's going to be the case. Really, is going to be the main event here, particularly in the early to mid afternoon. Look at that 3 p.m. Sunday time frame. A couple things I want to point out is that freezing rain will be lingering and hanging on the longest in this zone right here along I-85 and maybe just to the south. So let me circle something that I want to draw your attention to. This area right here is where the freezing rain is going to be prolonged the greatest amount of time. That's where we think the greatest icing is occurring. And yesterday, I was talking during our Q&A session. I mentioned to Rodney from Anson County that he looked like he was going to be ground zero. Rodney, I think maybe that rain moves in a little bit sooner. If you're listening, and ground zero may be a little bit north of Anson County. So, maybe Montgomery County, Northern Stanley County, Davidson, Randolph, Chatham, Alamance, maybe even getting into Northern Orange and Guilford County up toward Person County. That's where we think the greatest amounts of ice accumulation will occur. And where the greatest amounts of ice accumulation occur, that's where we're going to see the greatest number of down trees and power outages. And you'll notice by mid-afternoon, we think this line that I'm drawing right now is going to delineate where the changeover to rain will be occurring. Okay. Now that changeover to rain is really going to try to push even further west. So by 6 p.m. Sunday, really it's rain everywhere across central North Carolina except for the Triad. Okay, so the Triad looks like you're going to stay wintry precip type right through the entire event. But once you get south and east of Guilford County, even there it should change over to rain very late in the event. And finally, one other thing I'm going to point out, look at some of these higher simulated reflectivities. That's indicative of potentially for heavy rain. So that's why we mentioned pockets of heavy rain. And where this rain comes down heavy, there could be localized poor drainage and flash flooding. So, all the hazards are on the table with this event. Okay, so everything from flash flooding east of I-95 to just a really, really messy situation there once you get west of US 1. And for our folks new to these who are listening on Facebook, US 1 corridor, we use that a lot. And US 1 corridor runs roughly along this line I'm drawing right here. And so a lot of times we'll use that as a delineation for where things may or may not happen. All right. Okay, so how much? Well, this is a change, okay, from yesterday. When I did this last briefing, 4:30 yesterday, we were still calling for 4 to 6 inches of snow in the Triad. Well, look at it now. We're talking only 2 to 3 inches, okay, because the changeover to freezing rain is going to occur a lot sooner in the Triad than what we were thinking yesterday. If you're basically south of Highway 24, and I'm just roughly drawing that there, you're not going to see. You may not even see any snow at all. It might just immediately go right on to freezing rain right from the get-go. Okay, so really along and north of 85 is the best chance to see snow, maybe even northern Wake County, possibly even up toward Roanoke Rapids. There could be an inch or two of snow before it changes to freezing rain. Again, we still think freezing rain is going to be the really the main impact and hazard with this. So how much freezing rain? Again, this is one thing I really want to key in on is some of these higher values now. And again, Anson County, Richmond County, up toward Moore County, Western Lee, the western half of Chatham, Orange County, up toward Person County, and over to the Triad, including westward to Forsyth and Davidson and Stanley County. That area right there is where we expect the greatest amount of freezing rain, ice accumulation, and subsequent power outages and damage to trees. Okay, now if you're east of there, if you're in the Triangle region, the eastern portions of the Triangle region, and you're thinking, well, you know what, I'm in these yellow colors. Well, you're not out of the woods either, because believe me, a tenth of an inch of freezing rain could still mean travel hazards, especially on bridges and overpasses. So all of central North Carolina, even the I-95 corridor, we got to be very, very careful with travel considerations. And remember, a tenth of an inch of ice accumulation may not seem like a lot, but a tenth of an inch of ice leaning on a tree that's already dead and half leaning over might be just enough to take it down. So there'll probably be some scattered power outages, east of where you see the red, or there'll probably be some scattered power outages where you see orange and orange in this area as well. Okay, and again, we can't emphasize this enough because of the number of power outages we're expecting. Obviously you want to prepare for that. You want to make sure you have a way to stay warm. You want to make sure, obviously, that you have some batteries for your flashlights. But for folks who are using generators, make sure that you keep in mind the safe usage of generators. Oftentimes during these events, we hear of a lot of carbon monoxide injuries and fatalities because people aren't using their generators properly. They're using them too close to their home, and the carbon monoxide, or you even hear, every year it seems like you hear one person who puts their generator in their garage and runs it. Well, that's a recipe for death if you run a generator in a garage, because carbon monoxide poisoning can occur. Same thing with gas grills and cooking. If you're without power and you're using your gas grill to cook, make sure that grill is far enough away from outside, number one, far enough away from your home that carbon monoxide doesn't get pulled in. And finally, make sure that all preparations are done by tonight. Okay, we have basically the rest of this afternoon, which will have decent weather, and this evening to finish preparations. All right, so what about the wind gusts again? I'm not going to belabor this too much because I've already pointed out that we're going to see pretty gusty winds. Okay, so where there's ice, it's going to be the wind's just going to make things easier for trees to fall. All right, what about temperatures on Sunday? These high temperatures are likely to occur very late in the day, if not the evening, after that warm air has had a chance to make its way in. Sunday night, we're not going to see much of a temperature fall. In fact, temperatures will be either steady or slowly fall. Okay, and if you're saying, man, if you're watching on Facebook and you're saying, man, he's blowing through these slides, slow down a little bit. Let me remind you, if you go to weather.gov/Raleigh, weather.gov/Raleigh, you can download these slides. It's right on the very top of the page. Okay, so anyway, high temperatures on Monday are going to offer an opportunity for good melting. Okay, so temperatures should climb into the 40s under sunny skies on Monday, giving us an opportunity. But it's going to turn cold again Monday night. So that will present a black ice problem for where there's water still laying on the roads. We're talking Monday night. All right. So just to wrap up here with a quick timeline, this evening, we want to finish all preparations. Accumulating snows likely early Sunday morning before a gradual southeast to northwest transition to sleet and freezing rain through the afternoon. We're talking Sunday and Sunday night. Precipitation will taper off Sunday evening. And again, Sunday and Sunday night, we have that highlighted red because that's when we think the most severe impacts will occur. And what do we mean by that? We mean treacherous travel conditions and downed trees and power outages. Okay, and then Monday morning, we're going to still continue to see lingering icy roads. Clearly, it's going to be, particularly in the western Piedmont, the Triad region, where down toward Albemarle and down toward Troy, where the heaviest icing will occur. So it's going to take a while, but finally, Monday afternoon should give us an opportunity for significant melting. But then don't forget Monday night, any lingering moisture on roadways will refreeze and favor that patchy black ice as temperatures fall into the 20s. Okay, so just again, Sunday is the daytime into the evening hours of greatest impact. Accumulating snow, is probably going to be confined to areas north of 85, the Triad, maybe northern Wake County up toward Henderson and Roanoke Rapids early in the day before everything and everywhere changes to freezing rain, and that will happen. Okay, change over to freezing rain everywhere, including the Triad, including places north of 85. Okay, so travel and ice impacts, power outages. Again, I've mentioned all this, again, not to belabor the point, but, we need to be, particularly residents west of US 1 is where we think the greatest icing and the greatest a number of downed trees and power outages will be. So you should be prepared for the worst conditions there. And again, if you draw a line from Charlotte to Albemarle to Sanford, a line 40 miles either side of that line up toward the Triad, that's where we think things are going to be, again, west of US 1, I guess is another way to put it. Okay. And obviously we're going to be updating this and we'll be doing another briefing. We're going to be doing another briefing just like this with updated information. At 4:30 this afternoon, we'll try to make it work on Facebook Live. Yesterday I had a little snafu where my computer locked up and couldn't do Facebook Live yesterday at 4:30, so I apologize for that. We'll give it a try. For our friends who are listening on Facebook, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments section. And we've got folks here who will go through those comments and try to answer your questions. But you know what's really challenging? If we get hundreds of questions on Facebook that say, what's it going to be doing in, what's it going to be like in Hillsborough, or what's it going to be like in Clayton, or what's it going to be like, these individual city questions, that could be really time consuming for us. So we may not get to all of those. So please try to limit your questions to, more general aerial types of questions for our Facebook friends. But questions in the comments section. And for our friends listening on GoTo webinar, we'll get to that here in just a minute. So for all of us, we're going to disconnect here on Facebook. So thanks for watching, and we will do this again this afternoon if possible, hopefully, and join us then. And for our friends who are on GoTo webinar, we're disconnected from Facebook, and I'm going to stop the recording here so we can get the question.